In the heart of Mbete village, surrounded by wide rivers and thick mango trees, lived a young woman named Amora. She was known for her calm spirit and kind heart. Everyone in the village loved her. Old women blessed her when she passed, children followed her with smiles, and even the market women called her the flower of Mbete. Amora had a soft voice, always respectful, and she cooked like no other. Her jollof rice could bring tears to your eyes. She helped elders carry firewood and always shared food during the harvest festival. Her beauty was natural, her dark skin glowed in the sun, and her eyes sparkled like morning dew. When Obinna came from Umuzu village to trade palm wine, he noticed Amora at once. He was tall, with a deep voice and confident steps. Many women in his own village admired him, but he never chose any. He said they were not soft enough, not quiet enough. But when he saw Amora, always smiling and quiet, he said to himself, "This is the wife I need." Obinna asked for Amora's hand in marriage. Her parents were pleased. He brought gifts of yam, oil, goats, and palm wine, enough to impress the whole family. The bride price was paid, and a beautiful wedding followed. Drums beat all night. The elders poured libation, praying for peace and children. At first, married life seemed good. Obinna praised Amora's cooking. He brought her colorful wrappers and sweet groundnuts from the market. Every morning, he kissed her forehead and said, "Thank you, my wife." They laughed under the moonlight and sat together by the fire. But something started to change after a few months. Obinna no longer came home early. He spent time with traders at the beer hut. He would come back smelling of palm wine, with red eyes and no smile. If Amora asked, "Are you okay?" he would say, "Must you question me every time?" Soon, the small complaints became loud arguments. Then one evening, he raised his voice and threw his wrapper across the room. Amora stood still, shocked. She had never seen that side of him. The next day, Obinna acted normal again. He even brought her roasted maize from the market. Amora told herself, maybe he was just tired. But the next time was worse. He came home drunk, shouting about how the meat was too cold. Before Amora could speak, his hand landed on her face. She fell to the ground in pain and confusion. She didn't tell anyone. Not her mother. Not her neighbor. She wore a scarf to hide the swelling. She told herself, he will change. He loves me. But night after night, the beatings continued. Amora began to move differently, quietly, like a bird that doesn't want to be seen. She stopped singing. She stopped laughing. The girl who once made everyone smile now walked like a shadow of herself. Still, in public, Obinna held her hand. He smiled in the village square. No one saw what happened behind the mud walls of their small house. But deep inside, something in Amora was changing. A quiet fire had started, small, but strong. She didn't know it yet, but this fire would grow. And one day, it would burn bright enough to break the darkness. The people of Mbete village still believed Amora was living a happy life. She always smiled when she passed them. She still greeted the elders with respect. She still helped old Mama Kemi sweep the churchyard every Saturday. No one could tell that her body carried bruises and her heart carried pain. Behind the closed door of her small house, Amora lived a different life. Every night, when Obinna returned from the beer hut, he brought with him the smell of palm wine and the weight of anger. Sometimes he cursed the traders who underpriced him at the market. Sometimes he shouted about things that had nothing to do with Amora at all. And when his words were not enough, his fist followed. "Useless woman," he would say, slapping the plate of food she had prepared. "You think I don't see how you smile at other men? You want to shame me in this village." Amora never spoke back. She would kneel quietly and pick up the broken pieces. She would clean the floor, wash her face, and wait for morning. But each day, her silence became heavier. She could no longer sleep at night. Her eyes would stay open, staring at the thatched roof above her, listening to Obina's loud snoring. She started jumping at small sounds. A broom falling. A child laughing. Even the wind brushing the windows made her heart race. One morning, her neighbor, young Chioma, stopped by to borrow salt. "Sister Amora, you don't look well," she said, eyes full of concern. "Are you sick?" No, Amora forced a smile. "Just tired. I stayed up to grind pepper." Chioma nodded, but as she left, she glanced back. She had seen a mark, dark and round, on Amora's arm. But she said nothing. Like many others in the village, she knew what could be happening, but fear kept her quiet. Even Amora's own mother, when she visited, failed to see through the mask. "You are glowing, my daughter," Mama said. "You are doing well as a wife. I'm proud." Amora said nothing. How could she speak of the nights she cried alone? Of the times Obine tore her clothes in anger? Of the moments when she wished she could just disappear? One night, after another round of beating, Amora sat on the floor, hugging her knees. Blood trickled from her lip. Her heart throbbed with sorrow. But what hurt most was the memory of the girl she used to be. "I used to be happy," she whispered to herself. "I used to laugh. Where did that girl go?" Suddenly, she heard a knock on the door. It was Obina's younger brother, Tob. He stepped inside, saw her bruises, and froze. "Amora," he said softly. "Is this what's been happening?" She quickly pulled her wrapper tighter and looked away. "Please don't say anything," she whispered. "I will be fine." Tob clenched his fist. "This is not right. Obina is not the brother I used to know. He has turned into something dark." But Amora shook her head. "If you speak, I will be blamed. They will say I brought shame to the family. Let it be, Tob. Let it be." That night, after he left, Amora sat by the fire and watched the flames dance. She remembered something her grandmother once told her: "A woman is like fire. She may hide her heat, but when the time comes, she will burn through stone." Amora touched her swollen face gently and whispered, maybe my time is coming." The days in Beta village passed slowly for Amora. Each morning, she swept the compound, fetched water, and cooked food with a quiet grace. But inside her heart, she was slowly falling apart. Her body carried the pain of beatings, but her spirit carried something worse: shame and hopelessness. Every night, she prayed for peace. But instead, she got fear. Fear of the door creaking open. Fear of Obina's footsteps. Fear of his drunken voice. There were nights he didn't just beat her, he would force himself on her, ignoring her tears, treating her like she was less than human. She would lie there, staring at the ceiling, feeling her soul drift far away from her body. The next morning, he would wake up as if nothing happened. One morning, as she was washing clothes by the stream, Amora fainted. Her body collapsed onto the ground like a dry leaf. A young boy ran to call help. The women nearby rushed to her side and poured cool water on her face. She slowly opened her eyes and whispered, "I'm fine, just tired." But she was not fine. Later that day, she went to see the local pastor. She had heard his sermons about forgiveness and prayer, and she wanted to hear what he would say. Inside the small mud brick church, Pastor Ejak listened quietly as she spoke. "Pastor," she began in a low voice, "my husband hurts me. He drinks, beats me, and forces himself on me. I am tired." He looked at her with sad eyes, then said, "My daughter, you must pray harder. Sometimes a woman's silence brings peace to the home. Marriage is not easy." Amora stared at him in disbelief. "Even when he hits me until I bleed. Even when I can't sleep at night because I'm scared of him." "Forgive him," the pastor said, gently. "You are his wife. Your duty is to endure. She left the church with her heart heavier than when she entered. Endure. That was the word people always used. Her mother had used it. Her aunt had used it. Even the pastor. But how long was she supposed to endure before she disappeared completely? That evening, Obinna came home drunk again. He threw her pot of soup on the floor and shouted, "Is this what you call food? Even a blind goat would spit this out." Then he raised his hand. This time, she didn't cry. She just stood still and took the blow. Then the second. And the third. After he slept, Amora sat by the fire, pressing a cold cloth to her cheek. Her eyes stared into the flames, but she saw nothing. The silence was no longer peaceful. It was killing her. She remembered the story of her friend Ngozi, who had died 2 years ago. Everyone said it was a sickness, but the women knew the truth. Her husband had beaten her until her ribs broke. She died quietly, without justice. Amora looked at the stars outside the window. Her lips trembled, but her voice was strong. "I will not die like Ngozi," she said. "If no one will speak for me, I will speak for myself." For the first time in months, she didn't cry herself to sleep. She closed her eyes and held her chest. Something inside her was waking up, something fierce, something bold. It wasn't anger. It was self-worth.it was a Sunday afternoon in Beta village. The sun was gentle, the breeze was soft, and the air smelled of ripe mangoes. Children played in the dust, women pounded yam, and elders sat under the shade of the iroko tree. It seemed like a peaceful day. But inside Amora's heart, a storm was rising. That morning, Obinna had slapped her in front of the market women. She had brought him his forgotten wallet, walking all the way under the hot sun, only for him to scream, "Why are you following me like a goat? Are you trying to embarrass me?" Then, without warning, he struck her across the face. Right there. In public. Gasps filled the air. Market women dropped their baskets. A few men shook their heads, but no one said a word. Amora didn't cry. She simply turned and walked back home, holding her cheek with trembling fingers. That slap was not the worst pain she had felt, but it was the one that changed everything. Back in the silence of their home, Amora sat by the window and watched the road. Her face was calm, but her thoughts were loud. So this is it, she thought. Even in front of people, he no longer hides it. And still, no one helped me. Not one voice stood up. She rose and opened her small wooden chest. Inside, wrapped in old cloth, were coins she had saved for months, small change from market runs, hidden gifts from kind neighbors, and even leftover transport money. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Then she pulled out a folded piece of paper, a letter she had written to herself weeks ago. It read, "Dear Amora, if you're reading this, it means you still have hope. You are not weak. You are not nothing. Your life matters. And one day, you will rise." Tears rolled down her cheeks, but this time they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of strength. She packed a small bag with a few clothes, tied the coins inside her wrapper, and walked out the door. She didn't go to her parents this time. She walked to a small hill outside the village, where an old widow named Mama Onom lived. People rarely visited her, calling her strange. But Amora had heard stories, how Mama Onom helped women who had no one else. When Amora knocked on the wooden door, Mama Onom opened it slowly. She looked deep into Amora's eyes and said softly, "I've been waiting for you, child." Amora sat on the floor inside the small hut, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know what to do anymore. I've prayed. I've begged. I've obeyed. But it's killing me." Mama Onom didn't ask questions. She handed Amora a bowl of warm soup and said, "Eat first. Then we talk." That night, Amora spoke freely for the first time in a long time. She told her everything, every slap, every cruel word, every moment she had felt like a ghost in her own home. When she finished, Mama Onom nodded slowly. "You are not the only one," she said. "Many women suffer like this. But not all of them find the strength to say enough." She handed Amora a small calabash with herbs inside. "This is not poison," she said. "It is for peace and clear thinking. Mix it in tea when your heart is ready." Amora took it gently. That night, as she slept on a mat by the fire, Amora felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Not fear. Not pain. But power. Amora stayed with Mama Onom for 3 days. During that time, she learned things no one had ever taught her before, not from her mother, not from her church, not even from the elders. Mama Onom told her stories of forgotten women. Women who had been pushed, beaten, and silenced, but who rose with the strength of fire. She taught Amora how to grind herbs, how to breathe through pain, and how to speak with a voice that people would hear, not just with the mouth, but with the heart. On the second night, Mama Onom sat by the fire and said, "Let me tell you about the leopard." Amora leaned closer. "There was once a leopard who lived in the forest," Mama Onom began. "She was quiet, gentle, and careful. The animals thought she was weak. One day, a hunter caught her cubs and mocked her. She did not fight back right away. She watched, waited, and planned. And when the time came, she attacked, not like an animal, but like a spirit. The forest never forgot her roar." Amora was silent for a long time. Then she asked, "Is that leopard me?" Mama Onom smiled. "Only you can decide that, child. But remember, your silence does not make you safe. It only feeds your pain." That night, Amora sat outside under the moon. She held the calabash in her hands, the one filled with peaceful herbs. Her fingers trembled slightly, not with fear, but with a quiet determination. She knew she couldn't stay with Mama Onom forever. Her journey wasn't meant to end in hiding. No. She had to go back. Not to suffer again, but to end the suffering. The next morning, she thanked Mama Onom with tears in her eyes. "You gave me something no one else ever did," Amora said. "You made me feel seen." Mama Onom nodded. "Now go. Your voice is not just yours, it is for all the women still trapped in silence." When Amora returned to her home, it was evening. The air was heavy, and the sky was painted in soft orange. Obina was inside, already drunk. His body lay across the mat, snoring loudly, his mouth open, his shirt unbuttoned. He didn't even hear her enter. Amora lit a small fire and sat beside it, watching the flames. Her hands were steady as she pulled out the calabash and opened it. She mixed the herbs gently into his usual cup of hot water with ginger. The scent filled the room. When he finally woke up, groggy and confused, Amora handed him the cup without a word. He grunted, sipped it, and mumbled something about the market men cheating him again. Within minutes, his eyes grew heavy. His body relaxed. Soon, he was asleep again. But this time, Amora did not sit quietly. She moved with purpose. She tied his wrists with strong cloth, then his ankles. She pulled the table close and sat beside him. Her eyes didn't blink. When Obina finally opened his eyes, he was confused. What is this?" he said. Amora looked into his eyes, calm but powerful. "Tonight, we speak," she said. "And you will listen." Obina struggled, but the cloth held tight. "You think you are strong, Obina? You think hurting me made you a man? But tonight, you are the one who cannot move. You are the one who must hear every word." Obina's eyes grew wide. Amora's voice didn't rise. It didn't shake. It flowed like a river that had finally broken through a dam. And in that moment, she wasn't just a wife. She was the leopard. Obina's eyes darted around the room, searching for something, anything, that could help him escape. But there was nothing. His wrists and ankles were tied. His voice, once filled with pride and thunder, now shook with fear. "Amora," he whispered, "this is madness. Let me go." But Amora didn't move. She sat across from him, steady and calm, like a judge preparing to deliver truth. "No," she said quietly. "Tonight, you will sit and feel what I have felt for months. Powerless. Trapped. Afraid." He laughed nervously. "Are you going to beat me now? Hurt me the way I hurt you?" Amora shook her head. "No, Obina. I don't need to raise my hand to show strength. My words will do more than your fist ever could." She stood up slowly and walked toward him. "I begged you to stop," she said. "I cried at night while you slept peacefully beside me. You tore my clothes, my pride, and my peace. And all this time, I kept quiet, because I was taught that a woman must endure." Her voice broke a little, but she continued. "But tonight, I am done enduring." Obina shifted uncomfortably. He tried to speak again, but Amora raised her hand. "I am not finished," she said. "You called me useless. You told me I was lucky to be married to you. But let me ask you, what kind of man uses his strength to break the woman who cooks his food, washes his clothes, and carries his burdens?" Obina looked down, silent. "You thought no one would believe me," she continued. "You were right. No one did. My mother told me to pray harder. The pastor told me to be patient. Even the village turned their eyes away." Amora leaned closer. Her voice lowered. "But now, I have something more powerful than their belief. I have my story. And I'm ready to tell it." Obina's eyes widened. "You wouldn't." "Oh, I would," she said. "I recorded what you did. The bruises. The threats. Your own words when you were drunk. And I've already sent a letter to the village elder. Tomorrow, the truth comes out." Obina began to shake. "Please, don't shame me. I'll change. I promise." Amora sighed. "Now you fear shame. What about the shame you buried me in night after night?" She stood tall, hands at her sides, glowing with strength. "I am not here to harm you, Obina. I am here to set myself free. You will release me from this marriage. You will tell the elders it is your decision. If you don't, I will tell everyone what happened in this house. And this time, they will listen." Silence filled the room. Only the crackle of the fire could be heard. Then Obina lowered his head. "I'll do it," he said in a broken voice. "I'll let you go. Just don't tell anyone what you did tonight." Amora stared at him for a long moment, then turned away. "I won't have to," she said softly. "Your guilt will speak louder than my voice." She untied him slowly. He didn't move. He just sat there, defeated, crushed by the weight of his own actions. Amora stepped outside into the cool night. The stars above her seemed brighter than ever. She breathed deeply, filling her lungs with freedom. For the first time in a long time, she felt whole again. She had taken nothing but her voice, and with it, she had reclaimed her power. Tomorrow would bring a new beginning. The next morning, the sun rose over Mbete village, casting golden light across the rooftops. Birds chirped in the trees, and the market women laid out their goods. But the peace of the morning didn't reach Obina's heart. He sat alone on the edge of his bed, face pale, hands trembling. He knew what he had to do. That afternoon, he went to the home of the village elder. His steps were slow. He didn't carry the pride he once had. He kept his head down as he explained that he wanted a divorce. He told them it was his decision. The elder raised an eyebrow. Is your wife not good to you? Obinna swallowed. She deserves peace. I have not been the husband she deserved. No one asked further. They saw the shame in his eyes and let the matter end quietly. By evening, the message had reached Amora. Her freedom was now official. She stood outside her home and looked at the road leading away from Meta. Her bag was packed. Her soul was light. She wore a plain dress, but she walked like a queen. Before leaving, she visited one last person, Mama Onong. They believed you, Amora said with tears in her eyes. I didn't need to scream or fight. I only needed to speak. Mama Onong smiled. The loudest voices are not always the strongest. Yours was steady. That is power. Amora hugged her and whispered, "Thank you for teaching me to be a leopard." Then she left the village behind. In the town of Isioma, just 2 hills away, Amora started a new life. She rented a small room near the market and began weaving baskets. At first, her hands were shaky, but with time, she grew strong. Her baskets became known for their beauty and strength, just like her. Women in the town started coming to her, sharing their stories, their pain. And Amora listened. She didn't tell them what to do. She simply reminded them, your voice matters. You are not alone. Word of her journey began to spread. People no longer spoke her name with pity, but with respect. Years later, she met Kolechi, a farmer with warm eyes and a soft heart. He never raised his voice at her. He asked before touching her. He listened. But Amora didn't rush. She had learned that love was not just words, it was how someone made you feel in silence too. When Kolechi asked to marry her, she said yes. Not because she was afraid of being alone, but because she finally knew what it meant to be safe. Their home was simple. A garden in the back. A small clay stove. And peace in every corner. Back in Meta, Amora's name lived on. Young girls heard her story. Women whispered it in their kitchens. Even the men who once ignored her pain spoke of her with lowered heads. They called her tale, the roar of the quiet leopard. And whenever a woman sat by the fire with pain in her chest, the elders would say, "Do not think silence means weakness. Even fire begins with a single spark." Amora's journey from sorrow to strength lit a path for others. She was once beaten. She was once silent. But in the end, she stood. She spoke. She survived. And she never looked back.